This week on The Watchmen, two stunning archaeological discoveries at the Garden of Gethsemane that shed new light on one of the most important sites of the New Testament.
Despite the corona, there's actually quite a lot of development, and with it comes also archaeological research. And a lot of new discoveries are being made all around the country, but this one is so exciting.
Plus, a 2,800-year-old seal brings a prosperous yet dangerous period in Israel's history to life. And we journey to Jordan to investigate the death of John the Baptist. All that and much more, only right here on The Watchmen. Bring you important updates from the world's most chaotic and pivotal region. Both the United States and Israel are on war footing right now as the Iranian regime continues to threaten revenge over the deaths of terror kingpin Qasem Soleimani and nuclear mastermind Mohsen Fakhrizadeh. Now, tensions have never been higher and the region is a powder keg, but that's not the only breaking news coming out of the Holy Land. Israeli archaeologists continue to uncover stunning evidence that brings the Bible to life. We start this week with Jerusalem's Garden of Gethsemane, where the Gospels describe Jesus crying out to the Father before he was seized and arrested. Now, a major archaeological excavation is providing new insights into this pivotal site in the destiny of Jesus. Our good friend Danny the Digger Herman joined us from his home in Israel with more details. Take a look. Danny the Digger Herman, welcome back to The Watchmen, my friend. It is always great to have you.
Always an honor to be on your show, Eric. How are you?
Yes, the honor is all ours. And one reason for that is, man, you always have this incredible information about some new archaeological discovery, groundbreaking discoveries in Israel. We have, I would say, I guess, a double discovery here. Danny, tell us about it. Tell us what Israeli archaeologists found at the Garden of Gethsemane.
Despite the corona, there's actually quite a lot of development, and with it comes also archaeological research. And a lot of new discoveries are being made all around the country, but this one is so exciting. At the Garden of Gethsemane, the Catholic Church, the custody of the Holy Land, is developing a new underground passage between the garden and the Kidron Valley, because the Kidron Valley is believed to be the site of the final judgment at the end of times, and the church wants it to be more accessible. And while they were doing that dig, they made two very interesting discoveries. First of all, they found another church, another Byzantine period church, which was quite a surprise because the current church at the Garden of Gethsemane is on top of a medieval and a Byzantine church.
They call it the Church of All Nations, the Church of the agony in the garden, right? In the Garden of Gethsemane.
It's a big 1924 church, Italian in style, built by donations of different nations, hence its name, and it's over the Rock of Agony in the Garden of Gethsemane. And when it was built, they found the remnants of a church from the time of the Crusaders and from the time of the Byzantines, which we knew from historical records of their existence.
About 1,500 years old, I guess?
Yes, 4th to 7th century. The new church is dated to the last part of it, like 6th to 7th century. There's an inscription in it, but it's an inscription in Greek that is praising the sponsors of the church. It doesn't mention what is this church commemorating, if anything. But I think that maybe that church relates to the Last Supper, because we do have some Byzantine period pilgrims mentioning the commemoration of the Last Supper next to Gethsemane. So there's definitely more research that needs to be done. I didn't excavate that church, so I don't know all the details, but I would investigate that possibility. But that's just one of the discoveries. Beneath the Byzantine church, much, much deeper, under bedrock, they found a Jewish ritual bath. And Jewish ritual bath with those steps leading into the water zone is typical to the time of Jesus. This ritual bath is actually from the 1st century, from the time of Jesus, and found right next to Gethsemane. Gethsemane is really Hebrew gat shmanim, the oil's press, the press where you make oil. What oil? Olive oil, of course, because you're beneath Mount of Olives. And olive oil had a great need, especially for lighting. Now, if you have a ritual bath next to it, it means that maybe it was done in purity because it had a sacred function, a sacred destiny. You're right next to Jerusalem. In fact, you're right opposite the temple. Olive oil produced at Gethsemane was intended to light the temple of Jerusalem. Maybe its menorah was lit from olive oil coming from Gethsemane.
Wow.
Okay, the ritual bath makes it at least a possibility.
In the Garden of Gethsemane, Danny, which is in the Mount of Olives, obviously, had there been a lot of similar kind of discoveries, or this is kind of groundbreaking in a sense, right, for that particular site?
Yes, from the Byzantine period, we know of several churches which started sanctifying the mountain by Christians from the 4th century. Up on the top, you had the Eleone Church. Now it's called the Paternoster. You have the Dominus Flevi Church. You have the Chapel of the Ascension, Garden of Gethsemane, Mary's tomb. But finds from the 1st century are pretty scarce because it was an open area where you grew olives for olive oil. In Gethsemane, we have the first time evidence of some daily use there in the form of a ritual bath. And Byzantine period pilgrims also documented round stones. They associated these round stones with where the disciples fell asleep when Jesus went to pray by himself. But without being aware of it, they actually probably documented components of an olive press. Unfortunately, today, we don't know where these big round stones are. They were taken maybe as souvenirs by pilgrims, but that and the ritual bath is pretty significant testimony to the existence of an olive press in the time of Jesus at Gethsemane. Now, if Jesus was in Jerusalem in the autumn, I don't think anyone would let him stay there because that's the high season. But Jesus was in the spring, right? Around Passover. No one was using Gethsemane. It was an abandoned site, so he could stay there, he and the disciples, and the rest is history.
The one and only Danny the Digger Herman, Watchman contributor. Danny was great as always, and I have a feeling we will be with you again very soon with some new incredible archaeological discovery in Israel because they're coming so fast now, it's hard to keep up.
Amen, and I believe in 2021, I'm also going to have you physically back here with me. And we're going to keep documenting more amazing sites.
God willing, I will be with you again soon, my friend. God bless, Danny. We'll see you soon. Thanks again.
Thanks again to our good friend, Danny the Digger Herman. Folks, Danny will be with us throughout today's show, including after the break when we head to Jordan, to the very site where archaeologists believe that John the Baptist was imprisoned and executed. You will not want to miss this. Stick around.
CUFI's mission is to educate and empower millions of American Christians to speak with one voice in defense of Israel and the Jewish people. There's several ways you can learn more about Israel every day through CUFI's dynamic resources. The CUFI Coffee Break is a weekly bite-sized Israel lesson delivered to your email inbox. Dive into topics like the forgotten Jewish refugees, Israel's agricultural communities called kibbutzim, and the Hamas rocket threat, with options to dig deeper each week. Every lesson can be read in under 5 minutes while you're making a cup of coffee. Plus, stay informed on all the latest news out of Israel and how it affects you by subscribing to CUFI's Daily Briefing. It's a daily news roundup of important Israel-related headlines, so you're always up to date when it comes to Israel. Follow CUFI on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram for daily content, including videos, news articles, breaking news, devotionals, fun facts, and more.
Salome does a seductive dance for King Herod Antipas, and he says, "I will give you whatever you want." She requests the head of John the Baptist, and she gets what she asks for. Now, Jesus said that among men none were greater than John the Baptist. So, where did these pivotal New Testament sites actually unfold as described in the Gospels? Well, our good friend Danny the Digger Herman joined us in Jordan not too long ago at the very site where archaeologists believe Salome did her dance and John the Baptist was imprisoned and executed. Take a look.
Danny, this is exciting. We are now walking
through the ancient ruins of Machaerus. We're walking in the footsteps of Herod Antipas, Roman soldiers, John the Baptist. What are we seeing here right now?
Well, unfortunately, the state of preservation is not as good as like in Masada.
Yes.
We can see here the beginning of restoration of one of the halls.
Right.
And they started repaving the main courtyard over the main water reservoir. But you need to imagine here, you know, some parts of it is 2 stories high. Mosaic floors, opus sectile, paintings on the walls, a Herodian complex.
Yeah, Danny, as you said, Masada, so well preserved, obviously, but in our minds, we have to kind of recreate the scene here. This was an enclosed area. It's open air now, obviously. This had a roof, it had walls, mosaics, paintings. It was alive, it was vibrant.
Imported wine, glass cups.
The court of the king.
All the Herodian wealth that we're so used to was also here.
Of course.
But pottery shards and bits of
Yeah.
mosaic stones
all
is mostly what's left of it today.
And these are everywhere. These are 2,000-year-old pottery shards. They're everywhere.
Original. Nothing here post dates the year 72.
Wow.
This site ceased to exist after the Roman
As
conquest.
you said.
So it's
abandoned.
all original.
Abandoned. Okay, we were talking about Salome's dance.
Yeah.
Do we have a sense where she danced for Herod, obviously, and enticed him and asked for the head of John the Baptist?
Where did it happen is a
Where
good
did it happen?
question. This is the main courtyard. Maybe
Okay.
she did it out in the public in front of the whole audience, or maybe in some more private area like around here. We just don't know. But it did happen somewhere here.
The very provocative dance.
That sensual striptease took place somewhere here 2,000 years ago. A striptease that would change Christian history.
It truly
or
did,
define
and
it.
Herod could not say no because he had committed to giving her whatever she wanted. Tell us about these pillars.
Yeah, these 2 pillars were repositioned just a few years ago. One has an Ionic capital, the other has a Doric capital, so they're obviously parts of 2 different components of this palace. And again, you need imagination to reconstruct the rest of it.
Yeah.
The frescoes, the floors, the furniture, but this is an indication of extreme royal Herodian wealth.
Now, folks, if you'd like to catch that entire episode from Jordan with me and Danny the Digger Herman, visit our Watchmen YouTube channel. Go to episodes, and it's episode 103. That's 103. While you're there, be sure to subscribe to our Watchmen YouTube channel. Coming up after the break, one more major biblical archaeology story with our good friend Danny the Digger Herman, a 2,800-year-old seal featuring a roaring lion found. What is its significance? You'll find out after the break. Don't move.
Christians United for Israel is the largest pro-Israel organization in the United States with over 10 million members. But we are still missing one: you. As a member of CUFI, you'll be part of a growing movement that's catching fire across the nation as Christians discover the biblical importance of standing with Israel and the Jewish people. You can defend Israel virtually by responding to CUFI's action alerts and sharing CUFI's pro-Israel content on social media. You can support Israel locally by hosting a CUFI event at your church. Get involved nationally by attending our Washington, D.C. summit, or visit the Holy Land with CUFI on a life-changing Israel tour. Visit www.cufi.org or call to help ensure that the relationship between Israel and the United States remains strong and secure. It's a movement for such a time as this.
Welcome back. It was a time of great prosperity for Israel, and yet danger lurked at the door. Our good friend Danny the Digger Herman joins us once again from his home in Israel with some new details on a stunning archaeological find that brings to life a crucial period in Old Testament history. Take a look.
Danny the Digger Herman, thanks so much for joining us. As always, you've got another great archaeological find to share with us, dating back some 2,800 years. Danny, tell us what you have.
Well, this is really a great story because such discoveries are really rare. We're talking about a little oval-shaped item that a professor from Ben-Gurion University purchased in the 1970s. And he paid for it only a few dollars, so he didn't thought it was real and worth much, but he still liked it and kept it. And now, almost 50 years later, it's been studied and proven to be genuine. It is a 2,800 and something seal impression of a clerk in the administration of King Jeroboam II, the peak of the Israelite kingdom that is documented very briefly in the Bible, but through archaeology and a little bit that we are told in the Bible, Jeroboam II was quite a mighty king. Okay, he subdued the Ammonites, the Moabites. He conquered all the way up to Damascus. And already in the early 20th century, a German archaeologist digging in Megiddo, Gottlieb Schumacher, found a seal of a clerk in his administration. It's a beautiful seal depicting a roaring lion, and above it, it reads, Avshema, the servant of Jeroboam. And servant means actually a high official. That is, to this day, the biggest and the nicest seal from the Israelite kingdom. The original, unfortunately, was lost. It was taken by the Turks and disappeared.
But
now
2,800
we
years
have,
old. I mean, wow.
Yes.
Deep
totally.
in the Old Testament and really the illustrious days of that kingdom, the kingdom of Israel and Judea.
But it's the kingdom of the Israelites, which is even more significant because from the Judean kingdom, we do have some seals and seal impressions found mostly in Jerusalem, in the city of David. I saw you covering some of these discoveries, but finding in the kingdom of the Israelites in Samaria or in Megiddo, that's exceptionally rare. And this specific item was not found in proper excavations. It was looted from somewhere and changed hands till it reached the Bedouin market of Beersheba, of all places, and then purchased by a history buff and a coin collector. What he bought also depicts a roaring lion, and it reminded him of the famous one from Megiddo. So he took a look at it and he bargained over the price. And when he had to pay only a few dollars, like 10 shekels in Israeli value, he said, this cannot be real. There's no way that a genuine item would be sold for such a low price. But he still kept it and just had it stored. And now a few other scholars decided to examine it. Now we have better techniques to examine the material. We can actually tell through microscopic analysis where a certain clay comes from. The research indicated that it came from the area of Megiddo, and that it was burnt around the 8th century, meaning it was used by some clerk to sign some document, and then the archive caught fire. Maybe the fire of Megiddo or the fire of Jezreel, or who knows, some other Israelite city that got burnt by the Assyrians. But the firing of the Bula made it even harder and last till our modern times. There's a whole line of scholarship, especially by the Tel Aviv University, arguing that Jeroboam II is the peak of the biblical times, but the Bible written in Jerusalem doesn't like that king that much. So only 7 brief sentences describe the 36 years of reign of this Jeroboam II. And now this archaeological find and others are beginning to balance that and show what a mighty king he was.
Now in the Bibles, he's mentioned a few times as one of the evil kings. He's a contemporary of the prophet Amos, of Jonah, and this is right before, not long before that Assyrian invasion where they carted away 10 of the 12 tribes of Israel. We've got the good kings and we've got the bad kings. Although he was highly successful in a material sense, he did not walk in the ways of the Lord.
He and Ahab, he was another mighty king of the Israelite kingdom that apparently, at least militarily and financially, brought the Israelite kingdom to unprecedented prosperity. But shortly after his death, the Israelite kingdom would pretty much disappear. Within less than 20 years after he passes away, Tiglath-Pileser, the Assyrian king, conquers most of the Israelite kingdom and sends the 10 tribes to exile, and that's it.
Danny, fascinating stuff as always. So what's next? Right now they're studying this seal impression dating back 2,800 years. And what's next? A lot of scholarship will be done on this, I guess, from researchers and archaeologists in Israel.
This is going to be published in a proper scholarly way soon. They just gave a press announcement about this. And it's another demonstration that despite the pandemic, the research continues. Discoveries are still being made and research is still being done. And more finds keep coming from the grounds of the Holy Land. Fascinating.
It's fascinating stuff. And Danny, we know you will continue to bring us these cutting edge stories. It's hard to keep track, right? There's so many amazing finds. By the way, you're coming to us from your home in Israel, in Modin, the home of the Maccabees.
300 feet away from my house is a 2,200-year-old synagogue, possibly the synagogues where the Maccabees used to assemble and maybe decide to rebel against the Seleucid Greeks. Who knows?
Wow.
But yes, wherever you go in Israel, it's all soaked with archaeology, even near my house.
That is true. We love that stone behind you as well, my friend. It looks like Jerusalem stone. Thank you so much, my friend, as always. God bless. Hang in there, and we will see you again soon. Thanks, Danny.
Amen. Thank you. Litot.
Thanks again to our good friend Danny the Digger Herman for all of his great contributions to today's show. Coming up after the break, my final thoughts on biblical archaeology and why it matters. Now, we are bringing you exclusive content on YouTube that you will not see anywhere else. So head over there and subscribe and click the notification bell so you get alerts every time a new video is posted. Some very good stuff there. You can see on our screen all of our social media handles, so we encourage you to subscribe and follow us there. Also, when we're talking about these amazing archaeological discoveries, folks, I truly believe that God is revealing these now at such a rapid clip because He is revealing Himself to the world. We're going to see a whole lot more of this, I believe, in 2021, in the months and years to come. When you combine the truth of the Bible with irrefutable archaeological and scientific evidence, you have an unbeatable combination. I've said it many times here on the show. The stones are literally crying out today, just as Jesus said they would. We live in Bible times. Hey, thanks for joining us this week on The Watchman. Until next time, God bless you. And remember,